What's going on, everybody? It's CryptoVision here, back again with the crypto market update. Today's video, it's the new schedule. We're doing the macro update midweek, so we kind of get a feel for what the week is doing, how we're gonna, continue into February. This is based on structure. It's based on the overall market. It's not a in-depth breakdown. Friday's lab breaks down the structure, fibs, execution, Elliott waves, all of that. So if you're interested, it'll be linked in the description below. Without further ado, let's get into it. So we got Bitcoin here on the weekly chart. Everything is still intact. Nothing is invalidated. When people say, the fifth 5 waves up or the structure is invalidated, we have a lower low, this or that, they don't understand the structure. They don't understand the concept of a fourth wave correction. It is the most grueling thing that you can bear witness to. I've actually been through a fourth wave correction in a traditional stock through the idea that I was going crazy. I was absolutely going crazy. I didn't know what to do. I was learning how to process a long-term correction. It taught me how to stay patient. It taught me how to spot reversals and to spot the most dangerous aspect of a fourth wave correction, which is it could always be, an A, B, C. You could always be in the A wave of a fourth wave correction. So we're going to go ahead and look at that right now. So, I have the Elliott wave count up through here. We had 2 scenarios breaking down. We had like this 1-2 setup. We had this 3-wave move. And we had like a 1-2 setup. And we were looking to get up through here, defeat 93. We could not defeat 93. Boom, rejected. Okay, boom, rejected. So now we're in the 5th wave. Didn't catch us by surprise. We had 78 and 71,000 on here based on those fib retracements. And so this really lines up with that April correction, right? It really does line up with the April correction, which is just a long form correction that is grueling, trying to get people out of the market before the next leg up. Okay, so that fits pretty well just with the idea that, your fourth wave, pretty boring, pretty grueling. This one was way longer. This one was probably twice as long. This fourth wave was 2 weeks. This fourth wave was, 6? It was 8 weeks, right? 8 weeks. So it's 4 times as long. 4 times as long of that fourth wave, okay? This 5th wave is already longer, right? This 5th wave was only 2 weeks. This 3rd wave was, you could say it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, right? 6 weeks of a 3rd wave. This has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So still longer. Everything's been longer on this, which makes sense. After a 3rd wave, you have your 4th wave correction and the C leg. This is the C leg correction. You experience the A of the 3rd wave. If you want to say, hey, CryptoVision, we already have 5 waves up. Okay, so you're saying that this was the 4th and this was the 5th. Okay, so I've heard a lot of that. You already have 5 waves up. Okay, you have 5 waves up. I'm going to ask a question. After you have 5 waves up, what type of correction do you get? Right? What type of correction do you get? You get an A, B, C correction. You get a correction. Could be more than likely, if after 5 waves up, you get a pretty complex correction. But nonetheless, you get an A. What comes after the A? You get a B wave. You get a B wave retracement. More than likely, the B wave retracement would come up to this 107 to 112, 115 area, something through here. But you get that B wave retracement. Okay, so you have an A, B, C. Right, and that could be your A wave. If you're thinking, okay, we're going to 30,000, that could be your A wave. Then you come up for your B, and you come down for your C. Right, go to 0. Right, go to 0. That's what everyone thinks Bitcoin's going to do. You go to 0, but that would be a complex correction after a 5-leg wave. After a 5-wave move, you need a very complex correction. It's not just down. It's not just down. Guess what? It's not just up. It's not just up. You went up, came down. You went up. Came down, you went up, came down, you went up, came down. So it's not, when you're at the lows, people tend to get very bearish. Go on crypto Twitter, everyone is scared for their lives. Everyone thinks the world is ending. Right? But nothing's been invalidated. Structure is still here. Regardless, I'm expecting either a B wave retracement or a continuation for the 5th and final wave, which I have marked up through here for these levels. Okay, so That's what I got for price action for Bitcoin. Weekly RSI, you're oversold. You have that red dot on that weekly Fu Manchu. And I know you see it. If I see it, you see it. You got that little bit of green speck right through there. So that's bullish divergence forming. That's bullish. That's hidden bullish divergence forming. It always forms. Let's see if it stays. You're hitting that oversold area. You haven't been down this low since your actual bear market. You haven't been this low. So that just goes to show that you're very oversold, right? Bitcoin is very oversold. Your MACD, it's pretty delayed. It's pretty much always delayed, right? You were losing bearish momentum when you were ripping up. So I like to view the MACD as just kind of a confirmation that, we are building I know it's dark red, but you got higher lows and you have lower lows. Okay. Higher lows, lower lows. So you're building. So you're losing. I think you're losing bearish momentum. Right? You're losing bearish momentum. You're towards the bottom of where you would expect something to bounce and or build a little base. You kind of just chop around for a little bit. Don't just grind up. Don't just do one of these where you're just like slowly going up, because that's bearish. Right? That's bearish. Kind of want to come down, come up, come back down, come back up, and then go. That could be an idea, or you just straight up build your 1-2. Right, then you go. Okay, so Bitcoin, everything's still solid, everything is still good. Like I said, the full breakdown will be on Friday. We'll get into Elliott wave counts, we'll get into some actual targets and things of that nature. Bitcoin dominance, we're still fluttering. We're still fluttering, not really doing much. We have the idea that you close down below this 58.69 level and it's off to the races. That 100 is catching right up to that level. I don't mind that this is kind of slowly grinding up while Bitcoin dominance does absolutely nothing. Back below the 50 once again. It's fluctuating pretty good, but back below the 50, back below the 20. Okay, so Bitcoin, overall, Bitcoin is bringing the market down. It's not altcoins, it's Bitcoin, right? We got to start thinking about this. So the Truflation just came out. It's under 1%. If you don't know what Truflation is a data collection that is current. It is real time, right? It measures energy, food prices, cost of living, things of that nature. It measures the true number that Americans are, not faced with, because you could say faced with, but are living the conditions that that Americans are currently living in. The Fed releases these numbers. The core price inflation, the CPI, that is usually delayed a month, maybe 2 months behind. That's how bureaucracy works. There's hula hoops. There's, step 1, step 2, step 9, step 50 that, that people in power need to have control over, right? I was previously in the military. If you've been in the military, you know this. It takes a long time just to get out of the military. It takes about 1 to 2 months just to get out, and you got to go through all of these steps. You got to go through everything where it's, it could be so much easier and simplified, but that's the way government works. I know we've all been to the DMV, unless you're out here, Timmy at 14 years old getting into crypto. Be careful, right? Not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but we've all been to the DMV. It's the same concept where the Fed is just there's just some tomfoolery going on where they can't get with the program and realize that inflation is below their mark. PMI, the expansion of a economy, is above 50, and so people are saying recession. Everything is the opposite. And I think there's a targeted intervention right now while crypto is correcting, right? Because it's been in a correction. It's not because of the news. It's because that it needed a correction for the structure. But I think there is some tomfoolery going on with banks. Banks want to try to control crypto. They want to try to control who they lend it to, what percentage they lend it to. They just mentioned that Bitcoin can't be bailed out. Well, they're already thinking of collapsing an asset so they can be bailed out and buy more of the asset. That's what banks do, right? They print a bunch of money, they loan it out, and then they collapse and they say, oh no, we need a bailout. So they get all this money, and then they get all that money that they loaned out. There's no repercussions to these large banks that act without any discipline or structure, or have any kind of sense of a foundation that, hey, we can go bankrupt. Their mindset is, we are too big to fail, and that can't be good in a society where mismanagement of funds should lead to consequences. But I digress. In terms of Bitcoin dominance, it is being, this alone shows you that Bitcoin is pretty weak relative to other assets. Bitcoin is down 3.7%, Ethereum is down 6%, and that just shows you that the altcoins, yeah, they're down, but they're not losing the amount of market cap that Bitcoin is losing. Bitcoin is bleeding right now, and I think it's the reason why so many people are fearful. Altcoins have been decimated. People aren't, at least for me, I'm not worried about altcoins. Altcoins they're gonna do their thing. They're gonna rally. They're gonna go crazy. The idea that Bitcoin is going down like this is scaring everybody because people think Bitcoin has to run for altcoins to run, and I don't think Bitcoin has to make an new all-time high for altcoins to go crazy. I think Bitcoin needs to stop shooting itself in the foot and be able to stand on its own two legs. But until this fourth wave correction is done, it's not going to do that, and thus crypto market is going to be viewed as weak, incompetent. There's not a lot of trust, right? There's a lot of things that right now that are not in favor of crypto. So, you have the president coming out and say he loves crypto. Well, do something about it. Do something about it. Pass some legislation. Sign an executive order. Do something about it. Don't just rely on banks that fail time in and time out. And crypto shouldn't be with banks. It's decentralized for a reason. It should be a hedge against the money that banks use, because it's the money that banks use is worthless. It is absolutely worthless. And so, there's my rant on what's going on with the current administration, saying that they love crypto and the lack of acknowledgement of what crypto has gone through. I do think it's because it is in a fourth wave, but in general, there hasn't been a lot of support while the market is going down. I expect that when the market goes up, then a lot of good news from the administration will come out, and I think that's going to be a little bit shady. So, Bitcoin dominance, we're below the 50, we're below the 20. We've been trading this channel for, since October. We've been trading this channel. That's the way that I operate. My framework of trading is, I'm not even thinking about 55. It's just right here. We're right here. We keep it simple, right in front of us. We're not even thinking about that. Once you close down below here, okay, now we can start thinking about 55. Now we can start thinking about defeating this 200. Okay, so that's kind of how Bitcoin dominance is going. You had a little bit of momentum on the Fu Manchu. You're back below the 49 level, so this is bearish. When you have the grinding up of an asset where it's just kind of, it can't get out, it can't impulse, that's bearish. We need impulses especially for Elliott waves. Right, this is a bearish channel. You come down. I could drop better. If you're new to the channel, I'm sorry. My drawings aren't typically the best. I wasn't a great art student. But it's okay. I can make it work, right? So you got that 1, 2. You come up through here 3 more than likely. 3, 4, and then you come down for that 5th. And then maybe you break out, but this is pretty bearish. This is very bearish, where you're just not really doing much of anything. It looks just like this up through here. You're just not doing much of anything, and you're below the zero. Let's not even talk about that. Where was this at? Yeah, so we've diverged from the area of interest that we've kind of been relating to through here. All right, we kind of related to this area just because when you broke down below the 100, the 50, and the 20, and then you came up and rejected, then you slammed down. yeah, this cycle is different. When people say, oh, all cycles are the same, the cycles, it's different. It's different. The more I'm in crypto, the more I look at historical data. The cycle is so different. This is just going sideways. And realistically, it's been going sideways for a long time. I mean, yes, you came down through here and you came up, but it's at the same level it was back in August of 2025. You're at the same level. Right? You're at the same level. So you're just going sideways. There's not much going on with Bitcoin dominance, not much going on in crypto. That's why people are pissed off. If we go to the others chart, we have the idea that, others is, I think others, I know you have this head and shoulders, right? You have that head and shoulders right through here. You've broken down below the head and shoulders. Maybe we come down and test this trend line. Maybe you come down, test this trend line, and then what do you do? What do you do? Right? If you have the idea where, this is your A wave, okay? That's your A wave. Your A, B, C, A wave. Then you need a B wave up. You need a B wave up. You need a B wave up. You need something to go up, okay? To go up. And to restart. So others, where we've approached this level at 184 billion. That is so minuscule when you're thinking about the current liquidations of silver and gold. This is so minuscule. I mean, that day where gold and silver dropped dramatically, there was trillions of dollars in liquidation, trillions of dollars, and this is 184 billion. There's 1,000 billion in 1 trillion. There's 1,000 billion in 1 trillion. When I start to think about those numbers, I go crazy. So don't let me get started. Overall, this does look like it's in the fifth wave. It's almost completed. Like I said before, Friday's lab, we'll get into the exact Elliott wave count based on fib extensions, fib retracements, overall structure. But structure, I think we can come down through here and touch down through here. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we do. You have this idea that you are getting oversold on the weekly. You aren't oversold quite yet, though. But you do have, no bullish divergence. Nope, nothing like that. If you can reverse through here, if this doesn't just collapse through here, then yeah, you can have some bullish divergence on the MACD. The fact that it's dark red and there's just not a lot of movement just means the selling pressure is halted. There's not a lot of selling pressure for alts. Selling pressure for Bitcoin, you saw it yourself a little bit more. Maybe it's selling pressure for Ethereum. Right, we're going to get to Ethereum. Could be, a little bit more, but overall, alts are pretty battered and bruised. No one's looking to short alts when they're down 97, 98, 99%. It just unless you're like that, unless you're different and built different. So overall, others, that's what we got for others. Total crypto, same concept. All right, you've come down. Same concept as Bitcoin. It looks very similar to Bitcoin. You've come down. Right, we had this 245 level. We're looking somewhere in between here to bounce. You're looking for somewhere to bounce. Yes, you've broken through the trend line. That doesn't mean it's over. The trend lines, it doesn't mean something is over. You break out above the trend line, it doesn't mean that you're off to the races. You need to come back test, form a base, then go. It's the same concept. You have 5 waves down. My assumption, regardless, you have a B wave come up, right? 3 waves up. That's scary in my opinion. That's more scary than right now, because you come up through here, right? Somewhere up through here. You come up through here, and that's when you get that ultimatum of, okay, is this a 3 wave up? Are we in a B wave? And now we're going to start our C wave. Right, now we're going to start our C wave and have a complex correction, have completed 5 waves up. Now we have a complex A, you have a B, and then you come down for a C. That's where it starts to get very dangerous and very scary. Down at the lows, I think presents opportunities, but again, I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. We've had 245 mark for a while. You're sitting at 244. It is on the weekly. The weekly is starting to kind of look bearish. You start off green on Monday, then you just tank on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Is it new to us? No. We've seen this time in and time again. So until we start getting more green days instead of red days, that's when we start to see some reversals. But until then, this pump on Monday, then dump the rest of the week, it is what it is, but that's been crypto for a while. Same thing for the total 3. A little bit more room to the downside, right? A little bit more room to the downside. Where we're at right now, 3%, 4% down. 4% down. You get through here, and total 3 has a lot more room to run than just the total market cap. Total 3 has a lot more room to run, and that makes sense, right? If you're thinking about total, that includes Bitcoin. The ROI on Bitcoin isn't going to be as, in my opinion, it's not going to be as lucrative as altcoins, even Ethereum. All right, we're going to get to Ethereum's, best for last, but the return on investment, like I was saying, is not going to be as lucrative for Bitcoin relative to an asset that is down 90%, an asset that is down 95%, an asset that is down 65, 70%. You get what I'm saying? Even at retracement levels from entries here provide exponential return on investment. So, total 3, others, there's room for some expansion, and that's what after this fourth wave correction, with the macro overview, right? Government shutdown, averted, right? A bill signed, at least for the time being, right? There's still mud in the waters. Washington has, it's been a disaster, but overall it is still being resolved. And through all of this, it is a fourth wave correction. So it doesn't surprise me that there's a lot of negative news around sentiment, even though the macro is showing good growth. I haven't even talked about GDP, which is above 5%, which is astronomical. Okay, so when those new numbers come out with the PMI, with true-flation, all of those, and you get a Fed, you get someone at the head of the Fed that isn't opposed to an administration, that isn't viewed as someone that is standing up to an administration, that is neutral. When you see the numbers come in and you say, you know what, we can ease financial situations, that's when we'll see some movement. Until then, there's just the ongoing trivial, day-to-day stuff that's, hampering the economy because of uncertainty. But, total 3, we're looking like it is trying to find a low, maybe a little bit lower to go, maybe a little bit lower. So that entails like Ethereum maybe can drop a little bit more, maybe XRP, XLM, things of that nature. So, you're not oversold yet. You have this steep red. You have this steep dark red. We're looking for, you haven't been this low. I do want to see this. You haven't been this low in a pretty long time, actually. Yeah, the last time you were this low, you were down pretty much in that bear market, down low on the bear market, and then you rallied up in this little retracement up to that, 20 EMA, so that would be back up to that trend line. Nothing crazy, couple hundred billion. That's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for something like this, but also the structure doesn't look like this. Structure doesn't look like that. Structure looks like this. It looks like this. Right? It looks like this. Okay? It doesn't look like this yet. It doesn't look like that where you have just steep sell-offs. You have steep sell-offs. You have steep sell-offs. We had that October 10th shenanigans coming through here, right here. This is October 10th. You're never going to be able to miss it. But this is a grind. This isn't a steep sell-off, and then you went sideways. And this is kind of a little bit steeper. I'm not going to lie. This is a little bit steeper, but it's not. These candles aren't huge. They're, really not, right? You got like 2 medium-sized candles. It's not anything where, you have candles through here that are large candles. All these candles are way bigger. You have this small candle right here, but this one, looking at these down through here, sell off, looking at this candle. Look at this candle. This candle is insane. That's a brutal candle. That's like the October 10th situation, but it actually, it didn't get filled with the wick. So a little bit just more grindy. Like that right through here was way more intense because that's, what I believe is to be the third wave down through here. So overall, total 3, we're looking for a little bit more to the downside. Now we're going to get to some good news, right? Got to, clear out the bad news, get to some good news. We're at total 3 versus Bitcoin. All right. Covered this in the live stream. So if you didn't get to see the live stream, this, according to crypto Twitter, according to the experts, this was alt season. That's it. That's alt season. This is November. That's November. That's alt season. According to everyone, that's alt season. So, pack up your bags. Alt season is over. Right? That's what we got for alt season. I'm just messing. That's it's crazy. You almost have like a inverse head, shoulders, and now you have like this almost like a cup and handle over here as well. So you almost have a cup and a handle, and then you're getting ready to go. Getting ready to rock and roll. A lot of people are super bearish. I'm not bearish. The last time that this ripped, altcoins did very well. Altcoins did very well. You broke out of this falling wedge. This is what you should normally be doing on falling wedges, but crypto seems to have the probability of a breakout in their favor. You come up through here and then you just tank, right? And then for stablecoin dominance. Don't get me started on stablecoin dominance. We're not going to get to that today. That'll be on Friday's premium lab. You have ascending wedge, and stablecoin dominance comes up through here halfway and then just breaks out. Right? There's just the manipulation for the fourth wave is present. I think the fourth wave was going to happen regardless, but the length, that's the same thing. The choppiness of it, just the pure shenanigans where you drop, for no apparent reason, 10% in one way, then you go back up 8% to clear out. You don't go all the way up, so you don't clear out all the shorts, but you clear out a lot of shorts. You clear out a lot of longs, you clear out a lot of shorts. You keep doing that over and over again. Rinse and repeat, because exchanges, there's no punishment. There's no kind of, there's no legislation. There's nothing to prevent exchanges from doing this. I'm not talking about, legislation for crypto for, banks to have it. No, I'm talking about, prevent wash trading, prevent these exchanges from exploiting leverage, right? There's no consequences, right? Send that dude from Binance back to jail, in my opinion. That dude is a criminal. All of his tweets are sarcastic. He doesn't care about people. So don't listen to that guy. If you're following that guy, I'm sorry, but I'm not a big fan. So in order for this to sustain, we need to break out above the sell side wall. We're right there on the weekly. The last time we were there, got rejected, came back down. Wasn't terrible, but everything is pointing up, right? You cross on the MACD, back tested. So you came up through here, back tested in a three-wave move, cross back up. You have bullish momentum. You're above the zero. You're above the MACD. You have a green dot with momentum. You're crossing on the stochastic, right? It all looks good to me. We got this first target right above that 200. Okay, we got that first target right above that 200 where we're looking to get through, hopefully, and then come and back test. That'd be the idea. But like I said, this is, according to everybody, this was alt season. That was alt season, ladies and gentlemen. According to everybody on this downtrend, that was alt season. So I don't believe so, as you can probably sense my sarcasm. And last but not least, we have Ethereum here. It's resting right at this area. We had 2179. It's potato. We're down $30 off of this. We had this level of lower. Until you close above 31.27 in a 5-wave impulse. There's no the low isn't in yet. So you need that 5-wave impulse for the structure to be in a bullish posture. So until then, Ethereum looking like it wants to be, close to being done. Very close to being done. People are, if you're shorting here, I got a bridge to sell you. So, all right, this idea that, you haven't been this low in the Fu Manchu in a very long time. Pretty much since back through here. That was the last time you were down this low. Right down through here. All right, we'll put this on here for you so you can see that. I have a green dot printed, it'll be right there. So maybe a little bit lower, but that's, these are pretty low lows for Ethereum for the RSI. Oh, sorry, the Fu Manchu, the RSI too as well. The RSI as well. Right, you're approaching this level where you bounced in April. You're looking to form a low. maybe the next couple days, maybe this week you form the low and then you start moving. February, you got to get moving. You got to get moving. You got to get out of here. You got to form a 1-2, and then you can start to move. Okay, before that happens, we can't expect the reversal just to happen. You got to have the structure. You got to have the foundation for that. And that's the things that we talk about on Friday's lab is, these are the levels, these are the fib levels. This is the level we need to attack. The Elliott wave count is updated, everything like that. So, but Ethereum overall, I do have some prices, up through that almost the 7,900 level. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice, but I think Ethereum has great potential, and with great potential comes great responsibility. We all know that reference, okay? So overall, that's what I got for today's macro update. If you're interested in joining the free Discord, it is linked in the description. Like I said, I offer a paid Patreon membership where we get in on Fridays. We deep dive all of this stuff. We have a Profit Lab series, and then all your votes for deep dives for assets get included in that. Trading view tickers for bullish, bearish reversals, things of that nature. Either way, I appreciate you stopping by. I thank you for your time. As always, take it easy. Peace.